Amen. Well, good evening, Resonate. It's good to be here with you guys. My name is Preston Rhodes. If I haven't met you, I'm the pastor here, and I'm really thankful that you would spend your Sunday evening with us. This is going to be a fun one. We're going to dive into a topic that I know is on the forefront of many of your minds every day and has been for years. We're talking about dating today. We're talking about some romance. One of my, we'll call it a pastoral hobby, is to stay up to date on the romantic situations in our church. I'm a fan. So I often ask my staff, or I'll ask some students in our church, what are the vibes on the ground? What's going on here in our church? And I want you guys to know that this is probably the most romantically interested class of students that I have ever seen in our in my 7 years being here in Missoula. We have a lot of crushes going on in our church. And here's what I think about it. I love it. I do. I love it. I'm pumped about it. Data shows that Gen Z is talking to fewer people of the opposite sex. They are going on fewer dates. They are getting married later than any generation before them. And so I really am excited that some of the pre-COVID social norms are returning, and I'm excited that you guys are expressing your romantic interests in the best possible environment, the church, God's church. It's the best place to express it. But as I look around, I also think you guys need some help. You need a little help. You have a lot of passion and almost no wisdom. And so today and all throughout this week, we're going to talk about dating. Now, this topic it's kind of complicated for Christians because the Bible doesn't really talk about dating. Like, back in Bible times, dating didn't exist. Every culture has this stage between singleness and marriage. In Bible times, that stage was courtship and betrothal. In our world today, that stage is dating and engagement. And so when a Christian talks about dating, we can't just turn to one verse in the Bible and say, here's what the Bible says about dating. Instead, we have to take a more sophisticated and mature approach to Scripture. We have to look for the timeless truths, the wisdom principles, the fixed realities to guide our dating. In 1986, there was a man named Steve Callahan, and he wrote a book called Adrift. And in this book, he describes how he survived being lost at sea for 76 days. It's a really interesting book. But to survive, here's what he did. He used a couple pencils to build a sextant, which is a nautical tool that tells you where you are based on where the sun is and where the shoreline is. And Callahan, he understood the fixed realities of the sun, that the sun does this certain prescribed thing at the same time every day. And those fixed realities allowed him to figure out where he was and then gradually paddle himself to shore. If he didn't understand the fixed realities of the sun, the timeless truths of the sun, he would have been lost at sea forever. And so as we navigate the tumultuous seas of dating, you need to cling to some fixed realities and timeless truths that God has given you. Realities about who He is, how He made you, who you are, and how you're supposed to live. And so our goal today is to use those fixed realities to navigate the uncertain waters of dating. That's our plan today. You ready to jump in? Hopefully you have a note sheet. You can take some notes there. And then we have the Q&A on Wednesday if there's anything you want some more thoughts on. So last week we talked about the unique blessings and the unique challenges that come with the single life. That singleness is the one life stage that every person goes through at some point. And so it's important for us to properly think about our singleness. But as we saw last week, we did a poll and we took some data from the room. As we saw, the vast majority of you in this room are single. And the vast majority of the singles in this room desire marriage in the fairly near future. So that's most of this room is single and wants to be married pretty soon. And so I want to start by reaffirming to you that desire is good. That is a good thing. There is nothing wrong with it. That longing for partnership, the longing to pair up with someone and walk through life with them, that desire is good. It is good and natural to want to partner with someone for life. We know this because Adam had that desire in the garden before sin ever entered the world. Adam watched God create every single one of the animals in pairs, right? Lion and lioness, bull and cow, rooster and hen, stallion and mare. But for the man, there was no pair. And so God Himself said, it is not good that man should be alone. And God created woman. God put Adam to sleep. He took out his rib. He made it into the woman, and he brought her to Adam. And when Adam sees her, he bursts out in song, the first song in the Bible. This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. And again, all of this is before sin ever entered the world, meaning this is all part of God's good design. It is part of God's design that it is not good for man to be alone. That's part of the original design. Instead, for man to be partnered with woman. Man and woman together form a complementary partnership that turns something from not good to good. Now, I understand you fellas might be thinking, that's just not fair. Adam was single, and then he fell asleep, and when he woke up, there was a naked lady next to him, and I have to go find one, and I have to convince her to marry me. That's not fair. And that's true. We have to face it. That's true. For Adam, it was pretty simple. It's not nearly that simple. It's not nearly that simple for you and I. But it is still good. The desire for marriage is good. But the process of getting married is complicated. And so we have some work to do today. How do we acquire this good thing called marriage in a distinctly Christian and God-honoring way? And so I want to answer that question by talking about three things today. What is dating, how to date, and who to date? What is dating, how to date, who to date? Three big questions you must have answers to if you want to date well. And then at the end, I'm going to present to you guys a tool that I've been thinking about for a while that I think will be pretty helpful to you. It's going to give you some practical handholds. So let's dive into that first section. What is dating? What is dating? So since dating is not a biblical concept, we have to think conceptually to answer this question. So we have to think in terms of principles. So let's think about this. Dating is the stage that bridges the gap between singleness and being married. And so what does this bridge between singleness and marriage need to accomplish? Or what does it need to do? Well, it might be helpful to think about some parallel situations. Imagine that you are unemployed and you would like to be employed. What is the bridge between your unemployment and your employment? Well, it would be the job interview. And the purpose of that interview is to evaluate your potential for the job. Or another illustration, imagine you're a civilian and you want to be a Navy SEAL. What's the bridge between civilian life and Navy SEAL life? Well, it's BUDS, basic underwater demolition school that you have to go through to be a Navy SEAL. The purpose of BUDS is to evaluate your potential for the SEALs. So every transition between one status to another has a bridge where your potential is evaluated. And so with that in mind, here's a simple definition of dating. It's simple, but every word here is important. And a lot of your biggest questions about dating can be answered by this definition. Definition of dating. Dating is a process of evaluation to determine marital potential. That's all it is. It's a process of evaluation to determine marital potential. So dating is a process. It's an activity. It's an action. It's a procedure. It's a task. It's an undertaking. And it's a process of evaluation. It's a process of testing someone else. It's a process of seeing if another person fits into the vision you have for your future. And specifically, what you're evaluating is their potential for marriage. You're not evaluating their social influence. You're not evaluating their sexual compatibility. You're not evaluating their financial contribution. You are evaluating their marital potential. So dating is a process of evaluation to determine marital potential. Here's another defining sentence that I think will help you. Dating is a process to go through, not a status to sit in. It's a process to go through, not a status to sit in. So the purpose of dating is to get somewhere, to figure something out, to move toward the oneness of marriage. It's not a status that we just hang out in. Many of you look at dating as a status, right? I have a boyfriend. I have a girlfriend. Yeah, we're dating. You have no intention of going somewhere with it. You just like the social status, or you like the comfort, or you like the pleasure that you get out of it. Or maybe you're too insecure to handle singleness, and so you're just desperate to have someone to call your boyfriend or girlfriend. But think about if we apply this mindset to one of our parallel situations. Oh, no, I'm not unemployed. No, I'm not employed either. I'm just interviewing. We're just interviewing. We've been interviewing for a couple of years. I really like it. I like the questions that he asks me, and I like the paperwork that he has me fill out. I'm just so glad that I'm not unemployed. Right? It doesn't make any sense. We all see that. Dating is a process. It's not a status. And when you start treating dating as a status, that's where you run into all kinds of damage and heartache and regrets and confusion. Another way to say this would be to say that dating is transportation. It's not a destination. Dating is transportation, not a destination. It's how you get somewhere. It's not the place that you're going. It's like it's totally normal to use your car to go somewhere. It's not normal to live in your car. That's what's happening when you treat dating as a status. Dating is a process of evaluation to determine marital potential. So if that's what dating is, then how do we do it? Our second section, how to date. I have 4 principles for you, and they each start with P to help with memorability. 4 principles. Number 1, date prayerfully. Date prayerfully. Dating is a high emotion activity that has massive ramifications for the rest of your life. And that means that you want God not just on the periphery of your dating relationship, but right in the middle of it. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." When you have confidence that God is working all things together for good, it takes the desperation out of dating. You don't have to be desperate and needy. That doesn't mean it frees you up from making decisions. It means that it frees you up to make good decisions. You don't have to make impulsive, poor decisions. You don't know all things, but you know the one who controls all things. That brings a lot of peace to your dating. When you don't date prayerfully, God becomes kind of this back burner sideshow where you're just using him to try to meet cute girls or meet cute guys. And then as soon as you get in the relationship, your relationship with Jesus suffers. There are some of you guys in particular in this room who are more interested in using our church as a place to meet cute girls than using our church as a way to get to know the one true God. And if that's you, you are walking a treacherous road, and you are a danger to the women around you. The God of the universe is not a back burner sideshow, and he will not be used as a disposable tool for you to get more dates. If you're not right with God, you have no business entering the dating process. So when we date prayerfully, our primary attention is directed at God and the life that he has for us, and then our secondary attention is looking for someone to marry. So we're running after him, our eyes are on him, and when we see cute, eligible people run by us going different directions, we let them go. Because my eyes are on Jesus, that's the direction that I'm running. Our confidence is in God. We don't have to be desperate daters. So date prayerfully. Keep God the main thing. Number 2, date with purity. Date with purity. Our modern world has severely undermined the beauty and meaningfulness of sex. Sex has become purely transactional, purely self-pleasing, purely physical. Our world has tried to remove all of the spiritual and emotional components from sex. It's tried to pretend that sex is just physical. But anyone who has experienced sexual intimacy knows that that is not true. We know that sexual intimacy creates deep, emotional, spiritual bonds. And God created it that way. We can all feel it. When this is in marriage, it's a wonderful gift. It's a glue that keeps married couples together. But outside of marriage, this causes deep pain. It causes deep wounds. If sexual intimacy was purely physical, then sexual abuse would be no more damaging than physical assault. But anyone who's ever experienced sexual abuse knows that the trauma of the abuse doesn't just go away when the physical damage is healed. There is emotional and spiritual damage that is far deeper. That's why in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, Paul says, "Flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his own body." Sex is a beautiful and powerful gift that is a great blessing in the right context, but it's a great curse in the wrong context. You may have heard this illustration before. Sex is like fire. When it's contained in the fireplace, it provides warmth and light and comfort, but when it gets outside of the fireplace, it creates chaos and destruction. Sex is beautiful in its proper place. God's design for our romance is that we would experience each other in this order. Hopefully you can see this. Okay. So you start at the bottom. You start with the foundation. First, you see their spiritual maturity, their spiritual health, their spiritual devotion in community. You see that play itself out in your church. Then you start to get to know them socially. You meet them, you meet their friends, you meet their community. Then you start getting to know them personally, so you know their story and their personality and their uniquenesses. And then you get emotionally invested. You start to really like them. Then you marry them, and then after you marry, you seal the marriage with physical sexual intimacy. Sex is the consummation of the marriage covenant. But our culture does this exactly backwards, exactly upside down. We hook up with a random person we don't know. Our physical intimacy creates emotional connections, so we start to be emotionally tied to them. We start to get to know them personally, what makes them tick and what are they like. And then when the relationship gets really serious, we start meeting the friends and the family, right? That's when we know it's really serious. And usually the spiritual piece is thrown out entirely. Is it any wonder that romance is broken and confused in our world today? When we flip this exactly upside down. Sexual intimacy is the seal and consummation of a marriage, and it has no place anywhere else. And so in your dating, walk in purity. Hebrews 13 chapter 4 says, "Let the marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and the adulterous." So date with purity. Date in a way that if you break up, the other person is better off than if you hadn't dated. Date in a way that if you break up, you can still be around each other without having these long-lasting traumatic feelings. Date in a way that your ex's spouse could someday shake your hand and say thank you. Date in a way that you could invite your ex to your wedding. That's a good metric. Save sex for the marriage covenant. Number 3 is people. People. Now, it is true that you should date a person. That is true, but that's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that your dating should involve other people. Dating should happen in community. Every healthy dating relationship I have ever seen had mentors and peers closely involved. So I know that this flies in the face of our modern idea that romance is, it's just about the two of you and it's nobody else's business, and so just do what your heart feels is right. I know it flies in the face of that, but it's wise. Proverbs 11:14 says, "Where there is no guidance, a people falls, but in an abundance of counselors there is safety." Later on, chapter 24, verse 6 says, "In an abundance of counselors there is victory." So if you, as a 20-year-old, think that you are so wise that you don't need guidance on your dating relationship, you're setting yourself up for failure. We all need guidance. We all need mentors. So don't date in isolation. Don't keep things just between the two of you. Invite mentors in to help you date wisely and to honor the other person. And if you're really wise, if you want to take it to the next step, submit to those peers and mentors. Treat what they say with authority over your life. This is going to keep you from dishonoring them. It's also going to keep you from being manipulated or duped by the other person. Like, people can fake it pretty well to one person. It's much harder to fake it in an entire community. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with people after a breakup and they just say, "I didn't know he was like this." And I'm thinking, well, if you had asked literally anybody, we could have told you that he was like this. Everybody knew he was like this. So you got to date in community to keep yourselves from being manipulated. Dating in community also means that your actual dates should not be in isolation. I don't know if you know this, but nothing in the dating process requires bedroom with the door closed at 11 p.m. Nothing about it requires that. You should just know that. Every single thing that you need to accomplish in the dating process can be accomplished in coffee shops and public parks and group settings. I just promise you, no dating conversation is so intimate that you need to be under the blanket together in the dark. I promise you, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. So involve other people in your dating. Date in community. And number 4, date purposefully. Date with purpose. You need to remember, dating has a purpose. Dating is a process to determine marital potential. So dating is not to ease your loneliness. It's not to up your social status. It's not to give you a sexual release. It's for figuring out if this is the person you want to marry. And so when you go into a dating relationship, have that intention and be clear early on. You don't have to be weird. You don't have to say, "Hey, I'm Bill. I'm here to take you on a series of 10 dates to determine if I would like you to be my wife." That's super weird. You shouldn't do that on the first date. But she should know that this isn't a game for you. She should know that you're not playing games with her. Modern dating is tremendously unclear. It used to be that if you wanted to get to know a girl, you had to walk to her house and ask her dad permission to take her on a date. Now you can just stay up all night, Snapchatting vague, flirty messages to each other all night until you finally, one of you decides what you want out of the relationship. So to the men in the room, this is primarily on you. Be a confident man who speaks clearly. Do not allow ambiguity in your relationship. Proverbs 24:26 says an honest answer is a kiss on the lips. An honest, clear answer. So when you text and Snapchat and flirt with a girl and never clarify what's going on, you're just manipulating her for your own pleasure. That's what little boys do. God is calling you to grow up and start being clear. So here's a helpful principle for you. This is to the guys. Guys, every single girl in your life should always know the answer to the question, what's going on with you two? Okay? Every girl should always know the answer to the question, what's going on between you two? If a girl's answer to that question is ever, I'm not sure, then you are being vague and manipulative. You should approach every romantic relationship with intentionality and clarity. Know what you're doing and know why you're doing it. And make sure that she knows as well. Again, you don't have to be weird about this, but she deserves clarity. So if you go on a date, you don't need to say, I've determined that you are the woman I would like to marry. You shouldn't say that at the end of the first date. What size ring do you wear? You shouldn't ask that question on the first date. That's super weird. You also should not say, thanks, see you later. That's also horrible. That is unclear and confusing. Instead, at the end of your first date, maybe you should say, thank you so much for going on this date with me. I had a great time getting to know you. I'd love to continue getting to know you. Can I take you on another date next Saturday? That's clear. It's helpful. It tells her what the next steps are. Or if the first date didn't go so well, maybe you should say, thank you for going on this date with me. I don't think we're a romantic match, but I appreciate your time, and I would love to stay friends with you. That's clear. It might hurt her feelings for a day or two, but it's clear, and she knows what's going on. Every situation will be a little bit different, but the key is intentionality. Unintentional men are dangerous men. I knew this before I had kids. I knew it when I was an unintentional, dangerous young man. But now that I have daughters, it hits me totally differently. Like imagine if my daughter Piper was 18 years old, and a young man came up to me and said, hello, sir. I'm not ready for marriage, and I have no intention of ending up with your daughter, but could I please have your daughter for the next few months? She's going to give me parts of her heart that she may never be able to get back. She's going to give me all of her time and attention. She's going to give me all of her emotional energy, and I will probably put her in places where we're going to be tempted to give each other parts of our bodies that we shouldn't. Again, I'm not ready for marriage, and I don't plan to end up with her, but could I please have her for a while? I don't know exactly what I would do. I can tell you I would be doing prison ministry from the inside if... But yet, that's how half of you guys date. And that's how I dated when I was your age. That's how we interact with each other. The only purpose of dating is to move toward marriage. Therefore, do not date until you're ready to move toward marriage. And do not date someone who you wouldn't consider marrying. If you do, then you're not dating them, you're using them. Just call it what it is. If you are currently in a vague, undefined, unintentional relationship, either get out or get going. Get out or get going. And I mean like tonight after church. Get out or get... Some of you ladies need to call your boyfriends tonight and say, I'm tired of you playing games with me. You either take this seriously or I'm out. Some of you might need to make that... Some of you guys, you need to call your girlfriends tonight, apologize for your immaturity, and tell her what your intentions are. So there's 4 principles to help us see God's design for dating. Date prayerfully, date with purity, date with other people involved, and date purposefully. Now, it is important that we date well. Those are all important things. It's even more important that you date the right person. Who you date is even more important than how you date. They're both important, but you're stuck with the who forever. Okay? You can move past the how, but you're stuck with the who forever. So let's talk about who to date. The Bible has a lot to say about the kind of people you should romantically avoid. So sometimes it feels rude to say, don't give any time to this type of person, but the Bible does this all the time. So Proverbs 19, it's better to live on a roof than with a quarrelsome woman. It's better to live in a desert than with a nagging woman. Proverbs 25 says, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. He's not safe. You never know what you're going to get next. So you can save yourself a lot of pain and a lot of heartache if you keep your eyes open on the front end before you're emotionally invested. It might make for a good song lyric, but I knew you were trouble when you walked in is horrible dating advice. And you can see it in her dating life, right? We can see, don't listen to her dating advice. Sorry, I hurt some feelings there. Didn't even mean to. Since dating is a process of evaluation to determine marital potential, you need to have wise and mature standards for who you date. But you also need to make sure your list is not a mile long. Okay, so there's having no expectations is a ditch that you don't want to fall into. Having unrealistic expectations is a ditch you don't want to fall into. So here's what you should keep in mind. You're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone to complement you. You're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone to complement you. So just know that no person can ever bear that weight of completing you. That is only a recipe for a miserable relationship and a miserable marriage. Jesus is the only one who can complete you. But you are looking for someone to complement you, to enhance your strengths, to shore up your weaknesses. Remember, Eve was a helper fit for Adam. She didn't complete Adam, she complemented Adam. Men and women were made by God uniquely and differently to complement each other. And so as you determine who to date, remember, you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone to complement you. So let's jump in. 4 principles on who to date. These are going to be 4 C's. The last one was 4 P's. And these ones, unlike the how to date principles, these are in order of importance. Okay, so number 1's most important down to number 4. Number 1, who to date. Date someone with the right cause. The right cause. The most important thing is that they are chasing the same cause as you. You have to be moving toward the same ultimate direction. You need to be in lockstep on the most important decisions and beliefs in your life. In Genesis 24, Abraham is old and his son Isaac is not married, and so Abraham gets his servant and he says, go find for my son a wife. And what's the one instruction that Abraham gives to the servant? His only qualification is you cannot marry a woman who is not committed to our God. Do not get him a Canaanite woman, get him an Israelite woman, because my son will not marry someone who's not committed to our God. This is echoed in the New Testament, 2 Corinthians 6:14. It says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? The yoke is a big wooden collar that you would put on 2 oxen as they're pulling a plow through a field. So imagine if one ox is big and strong and the other is small and weak. What's going to happen to your plow? Well, it's going to hurt the oxen. It's going to put strain on the yoke. Whichever oxen is stronger is just going to drag the other one around against its will, and probably they're just going to go around and around in a circle. You're not actually going to make any progress in the field. Paul says the same thing happens when you marry a non-believer. It's the same thing. The reason this is number 1 is because your allegiance determines everything. Your allegiance determines your values determine your goals determine your decisions, and your decisions make up your life. So if you're not matched up at the top level, everything is going to be dysfunctional. So listen, I know that many of you feel lonely, but the loneliness of singleness is nothing compared to the loneliness of laying in a king-size bed with someone that does not share your ultimate values, that doesn't care about what you care about. So find someone that shares a common ultimate cause. Find someone who's committed to serving and obeying Jesus. And I'm not talking about he believes in God. Okay? Monotheism is not a cause. That's not what I'm talking about here. I see a lot of ladies that, at 18, they say, my man has to have the maturity of Billy Graham and the face of Zac Efron. And then at 24, she says, I'm just looking for a good, godly man. And then at 34, she says, if he can point to a church on a map, that's good enough. That's good enough for me. What I'm saying here is don't settle. Don't settle for the lowest possible bar when you're looking for someone to marry. Be committed to the same cause, no matter how long it takes. Number 2 is character. Find someone walking in godly character, someone who's growing in that direction every day. If you marry somebody of low character, your entire relationship will be chaos. You are always going to have to worry that they're going to blow up on you, or cheat on you, or steal from you, or talk bad about you, or abandon you. But if you marry someone of high character, the whole relationship is marked by peace. because you don't have to worry about any of those things. You picked the right person. In Psalm chapter 1, the psalmist describes a person who flourishes in good seasons and in bad seasons. And there are two reasons that the psalmist gives for this person's flourishing. Number one, it says that he is planted by streams of living water. So he's connected to God. He's in submission to God. And number two, it says he doesn't walk in the way of sinners and scoffers. So he's not surrounded by foolish, low-character people. Now, as you're looking for someone to date, keep a careful eye on their friends. Everyone's character is shaped by the friends that they spend the most time with. So if their friends are low character, that's a huge red flag that you should look out for. Look for someone with high character. Number three, look for someone with chemistry. With chemistry, this is not the most important thing, but it is important. Pretty simply, do you like hanging out with them? Are you friends with them? Do you enjoy them? The truth is, marriage is a lot of just hanging out. It's a lot of just time together. And if you're bored to tears by them, if you don't share any hobbies or interests with them, if you don't like talking to them, it's going to be rough for a long, long time. This is one of the big reasons that sexual interactions shouldn't happen in dating, because they cloud your ability to identify chemistry. Like, real talk, many couples never figure out whether they actually enjoy each other when they're dating, because every time they get together, they just get their hands all over each other. And so you're trying to figure out if you click with their personality. Meanwhile, your brain is experiencing dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit, and your brain is tricking you into thinking, this person's great. Every time I'm around them, I get so happy. And then you get married, and the dopamine high wears off, and you realize that you don't actually even like each other. You just liked each other's bodies when you were dating. So find someone that you enjoy spending time with. And keep the sexual stuff where it belongs so that you don't cloud your vision. And number four, find someone with cuteness. I had to find a word that started with C. Are you attracted to them? Do you think they're cute? This is last on my list because physical beauty changes and it fades over time. And any marriage that is built on physical attraction can only last a few years. This is why Leonardo DiCaprio has a new 26-year-old girlfriend every few years, because he's only in it for the physical looks. That's not the kind of marriage we want to build. But just because this is last on the list doesn't mean that it's unimportant or shallow. Okay? The Bible frequently talks about physical beauty in a relationship, particularly the beauty of women. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Abigail, Bathsheba, Esther, the Shulamite woman, all of them are described as beautiful in the Bible. And that's a huge component of the character that they play. So beauty is not the most important thing, but it is important. You should not date someone you find physically repulsive. Okay? I don't think I have to say that, but you should hear me say it. You shouldn't date someone that you're not attracted to. But, let me tell you something, godliness is super attractive. It's super attractive. In college, I watched quite a few of my roommates start to spend time with a girl and get to know her character and her personality, and all of a sudden, they just think that she's the most beautiful girl in the world. It's not because her physical looks changed, it's because of her personality, her character. It's the inward beauty that 1 Peter chapter 3 talks about. One time in college, we had a meeting with all the roommates. We did this every week, and we looked at one of our roommates, and we said, hey, we think you should date Jill. I'm going to call her Jill. Well, we think you should date Jill. Think you guys would be a great match. And he said, Jill, I'm not even attracted to Jill. And we said, well, pray about it, you know. And he did. He did pray about it. For months, he prayed that God would help him see her as beautiful. And a couple months later, he showed up to one of our roommate meetings, and he said, you guys know what? I don't know why, but I'm crazy about Jill. And we said, yeah. And we told him, go ask her on a date. And so he took her on a date that week, and they have been married for 5 years now, and they're doing amazing. So find someone that you are attracted to, but you have to remember that physical looks fade. They just do. Skin stretches, people gain weight, hair falls out, noses and ears never stop growing as long as you live. People get old. You have to know that from the front. So all four of these things are important, but they have to be kept in the proper order. If you go for somebody because they're cute and you get along well, but they don't have high character and they're not committed to the same ultimate cause, you will suffer the ramifications for the rest of your life. But if you get this list right, even if you miss out on some fun when you're in college, you will enjoy a lifetime of fun and intimate partnership with your spouse. This is hard. It's hard because it means that every day you are going to meet cute, fun, successful, available people who are headed in a different direction, and you have to let them go. You have to let them walk right by it. You have to decide, I'm going this way. I'm chasing after Jesus. I'm dedicated to God's mission. I'm committed to this ultimate cause. And as you are pursuing Jesus, as you're running after him, you're going to notice that there are people around you running in the same direction. People in your church, in your village, people in your community, and many of these people running in the same direction will have high integrity. And some of these people are going to become your good friends because you guys get along really well. And a few of them are going to be super cute. And when you find that person, you look over at them and you say, do you want to do this together forever? And you get married. And that's God's design for marriage. Cause, character, chemistry, cuteness. As you look at that list, some of you might be thinking, yeah, I wish, but that person doesn't exist. That's not true. If you're thinking that, that's not true. There are dozens of them in this room tonight. You just have to have your eyes open for the right things. Resonate Church is not a pickup joint, but there is no better place to find this kind of person than in the local church. And so I'm glad, again, that you guys are looking in the local church. So here's a summary. Dating is a process of evaluation to determine marital potential. Dating is a process to go through. It's not a status to sit in. Date prayerfully, date with purity, date alongside other people, date with purpose, date someone with the right cause, with high character, with great chemistry, and date someone that you think is cute. Now, when I've taught this in the past, that's about where I leave it. That's a lot of good, wise Christian advice that will revolutionize your dating relationship if you allow it to. But after teaching that, I still get a lot of questions about what dating looks like practically. So I get tons of questions about like, well, how long should we date? How long should we be friends before we start dating? When should we go exclusive? How quickly should I jump into the deep questions? What should I be trying to accomplish during these stages of dating? And so I want to try out a tool that I've been thinking about for a while, and it might help you answer some of those questions, help you think practically about your dating. So here's the setup. These diagrams are on your sheet. Hopefully you can see them a little bit, but they'll also be on the screen here. Here's the setup. Every relationship progresses along two axes. You have stages of intimacy, and you have exclusiveness. Stages of intimacy and stages of exclusiveness. So here's a way to see that visually. On the y-axis, you have your stages of intimacy. So at the very bottom, you have things like cuteness and character. These are the things that you can learn without even interacting with somebody. You can see them interact across the room in your village and figure out their cuteness and character. Then as you move up the scale, you move into chemistry and cause. These are things that require you to get to know them. You have to talk to them and interact with them, at least a little bit, to figure these things out. As you keep moving into the upper part of the diagram, you hit things like trajectory and alignment, where you need to figure out if your life is pointed in the same direction as theirs. You have to figure out what they believe about all kinds of important things, like family and finances and theology and marriage and health. All of these things require intentional, personal investment and a lot of hours of deep conversation. That stage requires a lot of hours of conversation. And finally, you reach the stage of being fully known, where you let them into every detail of your life, every regret, every trauma, every wound, every issue. This is a difficult stage, but it's necessary before the next stage, which is covenant promised. And this is engagement. This is when you decide together whether you want to move toward a covenant marriage or break things off. And after the covenant promise, the only thing left to do is make the covenant at your wedding. So those are the stages of intimacy that you go through, from single all the way to marriage. On the y-axis. Now on the x-axis is exclusivity. So when you're totally single, you're not exclusive to anybody, right? You have lots of friends, they're all on equal terms, but as you move into a relationship and begin processing through or progressing through the stages of intimacy, that relationship is going to get more and more exclusive. And this obviously culminates in the ultimate exclusive relationship, which is marriage, where you swear before God and your family that you will give yourself only unto your spouse till death do you part, for the rest of your life. So there's the two axes. You have exclusivity on the X, you have intimacy on the Y. And you can also see up in the top right that there is a danger zone. This is the high intimacy, high exclusivity, but not yet married zone. Okay? High intimacy, high exclusivity, not yet married. This is the stage where you're most likely to fall into sexual sin, where you're most likely to create lifelong emotional bonds, and where you're most likely to hurt the other person. So that danger zone is necessary. We all have to go through it before you get to marriage, but you need to be wise and strategic to avoid the pitfalls. Now, as far as I can tell, using that framework, as far as I can tell, there are basically two types of healthy dating relationships. Both of them are good, but they're both different. And if you try to blur them together, you start getting some weird stuff in your relationship. So let's look at these two models. The first model is the relationship that's founded on friendship. Founded on friendship. In this model, the early stages of intimacy are accomplished as friends, in community. So you're in church together, you're in village together, you're in classes together, you're ministering alongside one another, you're going on mission trips together, you're serving the church together. And over time, you develop a very strong friendship where you can clearly see their cuteness, their character, their chemistry, and their cause. And then once all of that stuff is figured out in friendship, you take the next step by asking them on a date, and you jump straight into the deep end. So you're immediately talking about their life goals, their firmest beliefs, their deepest secrets. You're intentionally building toward engagement. A good example of this model in our church is Xavier and Haley Flowers. Xavier and Haley met in Resonate in 2019 when they both moved to Missoula, and for 3 years, they became great friends through village, playing volleyball in the park, community movie nights, mission trips, and after 3 years of solid friendship, they started dating. And it was quick. They figured out the details. They got married. They've been married over 2.5 years now. They just had a baby last week, and I just saw Haley and Xavier walk in the back. So they're here already with a 1-week-old baby. Other examples like this would be Matt and Emma Dodderwich or Ben and Emily Otsby. You can get to know their stories and see this kind of thing play itself out. So that's one model, the friendship-founded model. There's another model that also works, but it might be better suited for people in different situations. This would be a dating-founded model. The dating-founded model. So in this model, you usually evaluate their cuteness from a distance. Okay, you either see their profile on an app or you see them from across the room. You see their cuteness from a distance, and then the first interaction is you asking them on a date. Okay, so this would be something like using a dating app, or messaging them on social media, or being set up by a friend, or introducing yourself to a stranger in a coffee shop. Can I get your number? Can I take you on a date? It's that kind of thing. In that early phase of dating, you're just trying to get to know them. What are they like? What do they care about? Do we get along? It's all the bottom left quadrant stuff. It's the cause, character, chemistry, and cuteness thing. And then once you've figured all of that out through these fun, low-pressure dates, then you can move into the top right quadrant where you're getting into the deep details and you're moving toward marriage. So a good example of this in our church would be Nevin and Hannah Marinkovich, that many of you know really well. Nevin saw Hannah from across the rec center at U of M, and he thought, well, she's the only modestly dressed girl in here, so she must be a Christian. And he went and introduced himself and asked her on a date. Their first real interaction was at a dinner date at Top Hat. Okay, first real interaction was on a date. Other examples would be couples like Brian and Mallory Jones or Austin and Abby Luke, where they went through this process. Now, these are two different models, the friendship-founded and the dating-founded, and I want to be really clear, they're both good. There's nothing wrong with either of these models. Both models can result in strong, thriving relationships and marriages. However, from just a practical wisdom standpoint, depending on your life stage, one of these might be preferable over the other. So depending where you're at in life, one of these might be a better option. If you are, let's say you're 19 years old, and you've just gotten involved in church and village, and there's some cute guys or some cute girls catching your eye, I would highly encourage you to invest in model number 1, the friendship-founded model. Spend a year or two developing friendships broadly, with a whole group of friends. Go through those first stages of intimacy in a safe, non-exclusive, low-pressure environment. I think this prevents anxiety, it prevents emotional hang-ups, and it widens the dating pool for your future. When I was in college, I invested 2 or 3 years into developing friendships. Like I went through those first 4 stages of intimacy with probably 20 to 30 women at the same time because we were in this community of friends. We were all just friends together. And that meant that when I decided I was ready to get married, I had tons of options, and I could make a wise decision. I could make the best decision. So if you're a young student with tons and tons of relational availability, I would encourage you to lean toward model number 1 because of the unique opportunities you have. And on the other hand, if you are maybe more like 27 years old and you have found it harder found it harder to find places to mingle and grow friendships with people your age, then I would potentially encourage you to invest in model number 2. So use some of the tools that are available for you to meet potential partners, and then use those early stages of dating to get to know them. These should be fun, should be low pressure, it should be non-exclusive. Like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with going on simple dates with multiple different people at the same time, as long as you're clear the entire time. You don't have to go totally exclusive right off the bat. So there's 2 different models, friendship-founded, dating-founded. There's obviously a spectrum between those. No 2 relationships are going to look the same, but that should give you a broad picture of what's going on in a dating relationship. There's a couple other things to notice on that diagram that might be helpful. It is possible to go too deep, too fast, or too shallow, too long. So if you're just getting to know a girl and you ask her about her deepest romantic regret, that's creepy. That's way too deep, too fast. It's even creepier if you ask that of every girl you're just getting to know for the first time. Don't do that. Non-exclusive, high intimacy is too deep, too fast. But on the other hand, if you've been dating for 2 years and you've never talked about your future, your life goals, your core convictions, your intentions with the relationship, then you are wasting each other's time. You're going too long, too shallow. The undercurrent that, hopefully you can already pick up on this, but the undercurrent underneath all of our dating that keeps it moving along is that God designed us as sexual beings. And as we grow in intimacy with someone, we naturally will feel stronger and stronger desire for sexual intimacy with them, right? That's a natural human feeling. And so therefore, since God has designed sexual intimacy to only exist in marriage, dating is this delicate balance where you're trying to grow in intimacy slow enough to make a wise decision, but fast enough that you're not unnecessarily exposed to sexual temptation. Do you get that balance? Slow enough to make a wise decision, fast enough that you're not unnecessarily exposed. That's the answer to the question, how long should we date? You have to find that balance. Slow enough to be wise, fast enough to not expose yourself unnecessarily. And this is why dating requires a lot of wisdom and a lot of humility. You're going to have to get feedback from people that you know and trust, and you're going to have to trust that those people see some things that you might not see. So let me close with this. Dating is a process of evaluation to determine marital potential, and the practical logistics of dating are an application of wisdom. So in our dating relationships, we should aim to honor God and honor our partner through our holiness and our obedience. And we should keep marriage constantly in mind. That's where we are going. The entire purpose of dating is to work toward marriage, which is an earthly illustration of the great spiritual reality that we are living in. Christian marriage is a vivid illustration of Jesus and his love for his bride, the church. Just as Jesus loved the church, sacrificed himself for the church, and invited the church into his mission, so husbands are to love and sacrifice and lead their wives into God's mission. And just as the church honors and serves and submits to Christ, so wives are to respect and help and submit to their husbands. And together, as husbands and wives, we declare to the world that we are part of a much greater romance. A romance that will ultimately involve every Christian in the world. I don't know if you realize this, but in some ways, we are all right now engaged. We are all engaged. We as the church are engaged to Christ. And one day, at the end of history, there will be a great and beautiful wedding. And so may we as Christians do dating and engagement in such a way that we can tell the truth about that ultimate reality. That should be our goal. Would you guys pray with me as I close, and then we'll have some discussion questions.